Okay, should we start? So this GS paper 4 which is conducted right now, we are just analyzing the paper, what exactly they are looking for or what exactly they are expecting from the candidates when this ethics paper is being conducted. So there is a trend from 2013 onwards they have been conducting this paper, and in this specifically if you observe the trend in the last 2-3 years, they are repeating the same kinds of questions. Okay, now for example, if we start with this question number 1, in the present digital age, social media has revolutionized our way of communication and interaction. However, it has raised several ethical issues and challenges. Describe the key ethical dilemmas in this regard. So ethical issues and challenges they are expecting. Okay, let this take time. The point is, last year if you check the paper, they were asking about artificial intelligence. Now they're talking about social media. Now anyway we talk about media, we talk about social media. Social media, again that point of this technology comes into picture, right? So in the classes anyway we discuss about the aspect wherein technology, media, that comes into conflict or that creates some kind of dilemmas. So it's a media, anyway it provides you with some kind of freedom wherein you can express whatever you want to, but therein it creates a problem. Now this question is being asked, there is a trend that this type of questions are being asked, but if you see even in recent years, continuously there is a debate going on whether we should regulate digital media or social media. So because of this we see such a question as being asked in the paper. Now if we talk about what we can specifically write in this or what we can specifically get into it. Why this is coming again and again? Remote for what? Okay, which, this one? Let it be, this is better. Okay, so you see they are asking specifically about these ethical dilemmas about social media. Now we say one thing, the good thing it provides is freedom of expression. Dilemma means you will show the two different dimensions which are confusing you, which are bringing dilemma in you. So here freedom of expression you're getting, but then that's creating problem in social media. In social media there is some kind of anarchy. You have anonymity, so you can speak anything. That's why we see in the comment box, people will not show responsibility and speak whatever they want to. That dimension comes into picture. Or many people are misusing it in the form of hate speech. Many people are even going for something called as misinformation campaign, right? So when you look at all these things, this brings us in the phase of dilemma, wherein we should regulate it or whether we should not regulate it. Because when you allow it as a form of expression, if we give it absolute freedom to express, then we see such things coming into picture. So show such dilemmas, that on one side expression, on one side the responsibility part, or people misusing it in the form of this misinformation, right? Now here you can bring in some theory part. For example, we have this J.S. Mill who talked about harm principle. So when it comes to actions which just affect me, it should not be regulated. But if my actions affect others, it should be regulated by the state. So that harm principle can be brought in over here to bring that theoretical touch in this particular question, right? Apart from that, we can talk about this privacy part and surveillance part. Yes, for everyone this privacy part is concerned, but for the state, surveillance is also needed from the perspective of this national security, etc. So these two things come into conflict when it comes to social media, right? Then we talk about this global platform, local cultures. Through social media, a kind of culture that is being propagated, or this social media connects the entire world together. So the culture is getting mixed up. Somewhere we are talking about something called global culture. When globalization is taking place, in that globalization, ideas are also transferring or moving from one place to the other. Whereas some people will talk about this local culture, identity, local identity, or there is something we study that we call as relative ethics. Relative ethics or in that this cultural relativism, right? So this is something we can bring in over here. So overall, the question more or less when it is talking about the ethical issues and challenges or ethical dilemmas, particularly in this regard. So this dilemma has to be focused on. This dilemma is something that is going to give you the marks over here. Okay. Now while showing it, bring the positive and negative aspect with some examples. So for example, social media or media as a tool, it can act as something very good. Something we saw especially in terms of Arab Spring. So in terms of democracy, bringing changes in the democracy, or if there is dictatorship in some area, the social media can influence that area to bring in democracy. So it has good role. We have this Me Too movement in which social media was being used by women to talk about the atrocities they have suffered or the problems they have suffered. So somewhere women empowerment we are bringing through the social media. So this is something positive you are showing. Right? In the dilemma, you have something on positive side, but on the other side, same social media or the rumors on the social media led to many riots, like this Delhi riot. Right? So that's how you show the contradiction. Talk about this Mill principle. Talk about the articles in the Constitution wherein we talk about something called as reasonable restrictions. Okay, so you have to bring in the knowledge of your GS and connect it with this particular part. Okay. So that's all from this particular question. Now see the next question. Constitutional morality is not a natural sentiment, but a product of civil education and adherence of the rule of law. Examine the significance of constitutional morality for public servant, highlighting the role in promoting good governance and ensuring accountability in public administration. Now one thing. They are asking constitutional morality again and again. There is a pattern if you see the papers. First thing they ask in ethics, second they ask in polity also. So this year in GS paper 2, if you see the question paper, they have asked about constitutional morality, right? Now here also. Okay, anyway, when we study ethics, we deal with constitutional morality because we talk about morality. We talk about the sources of morality, from where we derive our morality. So there is something called social morality. People are mostly driven by social morality. Then there is constitutional morality, and we expect that public servants should certainly be driven by constitutional morality. This public servants doesn't just include civil servants, it also includes other positions, even including the politicians or the judiciary or any organ of the state. We expect the institution as well as the individuals, everyone to adhere to constitutional morality, right? Now, if we have to answer this, certainly you will start with the introduction of the constitutional morality. So we have Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who had talked about this constitutional morality specifically. This was done in the debates of Constituent Assembly, right? He referred to a person called as George Grote. So actually, I would suggest define constitutional morality directly with the words of George Grote. He says, constitutional morality is the paramount reverence to the Constitution. That means highest respect that you can provide to the Constitution above anything. And when you say Constitution, you specifically talk about the values and principles of the Constitution, right? The philosophy of the Constitution, when you adhere to that. So this question specifically expects you that first talk about this constitutional morality and tell us why it is so much important for public servants. So please ensure that while writing the answer, include everyone. Don't just look at it as public servants as just your bureaucrats. Bring everyone over here, right? Now, what did they say? Significance of constitutional morality for public servant, highlighting the role in promoting good governance and ensuring accountability in public administration. So focus should be on this aspect. So you will talk about significance, but specifically you will give importance to good governance. Why? For good governance it is needed, and specifically to ensure accountability. So you talk about these parts, like let's say to ensure rule of law. Let's say I do not adhere to constitutional morality or the principles. then I might use the powers. Let's say there are some loopholes in a particular law, so I might go for my arbitrary decision making. So here, to ensure rule of law, it is needed. This constitutional morality is needed in every individual, right? Then if you have constitutional morality, certainly you will protect the minority rights, because that's something you are learning from the constitution anyway. Or you will be very much neutral and impartial whenever you're taking decisions which requires you to be impartial. Let's say there is a case which involves some conflict of interest, or let's say it involves many political parties over there, and if you're being like a bureaucrat who is committed to the ruling party, now that's not something you're supposed to do. So a person having adherence to this constitutional values, he will never go against it. So you will be anyway ensuring that the core principles of the constitution continue and they are implemented in real form, not the immediate benefits that someone might get, right? So that's how you talk about the significance, that it will ensure rule of law, neutrality, good governance, accountability. Bring some examples. When you are talking about this good governance, accountability part, try to bring some examples. Negative example can be given, positive can be given. If you don't adhere to constitutional principles, how it may go wrong, and if you adhere, how it may go for a positive thing. Okay, right now many are even questioning whether some bureaucrats or even some institutions are not being autonomous. They are just acting on what the ruling party is saying. So you talk about that, how that becomes important. Okay, you can connect it with the theory part, especially, see, there are many theories you can bring in. Best theory that you can bring in is this idea of trusteeship, or to act as, when you are holding any public office, whether you are a civil servant or a politician or anything, when you are in a public office, you should give importance to the trust that people have on the state. You are the representative of the state, and state and citizens have a bond, right? That bond is based on the idea of trust, which should not be broken at any cost, right? There's a line I keep on repeating, that Caesar's wife should be above suspicion. So here Caesar simply means the state, and these institutions who involve some individuals, their behavior matters a lot, right? So their action will anyway depend on their thoughts or their morality. So that's how constitutional morality becomes important. That's how you show it over here. Okay, very expected question, very much like you would be having notes available directly, you have to put it over here. Clear? Now, next, question number 2A. Karl von Clausewitz once said, "War is a diplomacy by other means." Critically analyze the above statement in the present context of contemporary geopolitical conflict. Now, what do you understand by this statement? War is a diplomacy by other means. Yes? What is the meaning of the statement?
Diplomacy means we have to be diplomatic in some reasons. If there is war is happened.
Yeah, but they're not talking about diplomacy, they're talking about war. The statement is about war, not diplomacy. Okay, when we see, this is the area where international relations and ethics, both subjects merge. When we study ethics, especially in the applied part or in the later part, we study about ethics or importance of ethics in terms of international relations. So in international relations, you will find different ideologies coming into picture. One way of looking at international relations is through the principles of realism. Some way you can look at it through idealism. We have different ideologies like liberalism as an ideology present right now in international relations. So here this statement actually is coming from the realist perspective. Realists look at politics in this manner. They say that if you want to serve the interest of your country, the national interest, what you will do, let's say America wants to serve its interest, that let's say it wants more money pumping into America, more jobs for American, what he is doing, putting tariffs on others, right? You will be taking some action against others to serve your own interest. Now, when you're trying to do that, One of the way is to go for diplomacy, right? Diplomatically you try to do that. Now he's saying, when diplomacy is not working, or let's say apart from diplomacy, there's one more option, that is war. That means he's simply saying, if you want to serve your purpose, you can go for war. War is one of the means. Just like you go for diplomacy, you can also go for war. So war is not because there is a conflict as such, that's a method or tool to ensure that other side does what you wanted him to do. Okay? So here you can link all this with the present day crisis. This question is being asked because of the crisis that is going on already. Russia-Ukraine crisis or this Gaza crisis, etc. And there is a trend. Again, they have been asking about war. If you see the PYQs, so I think there was one case study on related to war. So we study something called as just war theory in ethics. That somewhat relates with these things. Here specifically, more than just war theory, it's more about this realist perspective. How much do you agree with it? Critically analyze. How much do you agree with it? How much you don't agree with it? Or you can show different perspectives directly over here. Okay, so for example, you bring all these crises, you give the examples, you talk about this realist perspective which he is supporting, which we simply call as power politics. At present time, this is something we are observing happening in the international relations. Power politics is coming into picture. In contrast to this realist approach of looking at international relations, there is something called liberalism, which says that if you want to have, if you want to have some kind of issue to be resolved, then they don't suggest that going for war is the right way, or this power politics will go for war. Simply you understand, there's a very powerful country and there's a small country in front of you, and this country is not accepting what he wants, so he'll directly attack. Simple. That's power politics. Whereas liberalism, we say, liberalism prefers diplomacy, use institutions at the world level like United Nations, WHO, WTO, etc. These can be utilized. Right? They go for cooperation rather than such war as a tool. Clear? So show all these. Then you can even contradict the statement by talking about something called as nuclear deterrence. So nuclear deterrence says that you will not go ahead with war with any country who is a nuclear power. Right? So this shows that when he is saying, this person, whatever statement he made, you're saying you don't agree with it, considering this present context of nuclear deterrence, right? And right now when we talk about war, it's not just about the militaristic war that we go ahead with. There are so many ways through which now countries are putting pressure on other countries. So because of technology, many other things are coming into picture. For example, there's something called cyber warfare, information warfare, economic sanctions, which Trump is anyway using, right? So all these you can show that apart from this, there are other options also which are available. Okay? This is a realist perspective. You will also give your idealistic perspective. You will mix both of them and show it over here. Okay, certainly we will never say that war should be an option. It is an option. You have to accept that fact. And you have to present your view that it should not be an option. Okay? And then bring in that just war theory. Clear? Then, next question. Keeping the national security in mind, examine the ethical dilemmas related to controversies over environmental clearance of development projects in ecologically sensitive border areas in the country. So, India is already going for constructing many things in the border regions, considering the security issues, especially with respect to China, right? But those areas, let's say these Himalayan areas, those are very ecologically sensitive, right? Now this is something you're anyway reading in current affairs. You have to connect whatever is happening and bring it with ethical part or the values or principles that are getting violated or something we need to think of, right? So what they are asking, they are saying that these are the things happening. Okay, now the core demand is, maybe this is not printed correctly, if you see the question paper. Okay, so development is ecologically sensitive areas. Answer. Okay, they have not added anything, they are just saying examine the ethical dilemmas related to this. So only ethical dilemmas they are questioning. So what kind of ethical dilemmas? You see, security is important. Yes, security from the other state, because that's a real concern that we see presently. But also environment is important. If you don't protect environment, anyway in future, that will also cause you the problem of security challenge again. Am I right? Yes. Then you can bring in the dilemma wherein you are thinking about your immediate needs, because this security concern is there for this generation, right? And you are causing problem, harm to the environment, which will cause a problem to the next generation. What about the principle of justice, which applies to you? It should apply to the next generation also, right? That's why we talk about sustainability. So that's how you have to just bring in those basic dilemmas which you understand in this particular case, right? This just requires basic brainstorming to come up with these points, that economy versus environment, rule of law versus expediency. Like our law is important, you are going for immediate actions, expediency, right? And you can bring in those theories also. What about the rights of people living over there? What about the rights of next generation? That part. And when government is bringing such things, government is going through this principle of utilitarianism, right? So bring in all these points. You have to take a balanced perspective. You can't directly say that no, security is not important. You can't take that point. Neither you can say that environment is not important. You have to come to some balanced way wherein you say that security cannot be compromised. First thing, that's an immediate concern. You can't compromise that. But you will also not compromise your environment completely. So there should be development, but that sustainable development is needed, not the model of development which we were already thinking of. Now we need sustainable development. Okay, so give your way forward in this part. While showcasing, talk about all these principles. See, same question could be asked in GS3 also, right? There you might not focus much on these principles part. You'll talk about the data and all those things, what all is happening. Here you will give more importance to those principles, right? More or less answer will be not much different as such. Okay, now the quotes part. They keep on asking the quotes, and nothing new they are asking, I'm telling you. So this is something very basic. When we study the basic philosophies, Western thinkers, Indian thinkers, we get basic understanding of how we think about any thought process. Here, first thing, those who in trouble untroubled are, will trouble itself. Now when you read it, it's like, sir, it's giving me trouble. So simply, if you just break it to understand it, those who are in trouble, those people who are having some kind of problem, untroubled are, that means they are not troubled. They have got a problem, but they are not troubled. That simply means their mind is very calm. Understand this thing. So this is coming from your something called as emotional intelligence. Am I right? So you are calm. You're looking at the situation as it is. If you panic, you will certainly create problem. You're an untroubled person. Now what this person will do, if your mind is calm and all, if you're so emotionally intelligent and all, will trouble itself. You will create the trouble for that trouble itself. That means eventually this problem will be killed or destroyed by you. That's what he's trying to say. Am I right? So to comprehend, you have to just break the sentence, break the words, just to understand. Simply they are saying, just do one thing, you should have a very calm mind, especially whenever there is adversity or a problem, right? A calm mind person can handle adversity easily. That's what they are trying to say. So there's a word also, something called as equanimity, virtue of equanimity, that we use for the same thing, that you stay calm. Okay, same thing is also being said in Bhagavad Gita. Same thing. Okay, for example, there's this samatvam yoga uchyate, is the same line saying this particular thing. Or this Stoic philosophy, wherein this thinker called Epictetus, he also says the same thing, that your reaction matters. Problem is not a problem, your reaction is a problem. If you react in a calm manner, problem will be sorted out, right? Even you can bring in one thinker which we anyway discuss, Machiavelli. So even Machiavelli says about king, if you become king, if you become prince, there's always a chance that you will face some dangerous problem. It will be like there could be an unfortunate incident happening. And you have to be brave like lion in that particular situation, he says, right? So all the part is about your ability to handle it, because if you are calm, you can handle it. So your state of mind matters more than anything. This is even applicable in your examination. If your state of mind is right, you can attempt the paper rightly. Okay? So just you have to discuss that part. I can write an entire essay on this, or this can be directly asked in the essay paper also, same quote. Okay, so you have to just explain it. Now if you have to show the relevance in terms of individuals, let's say you talk about COVID-19, many people were getting panicked, right? Some people were not panicking. You can give basic examples also. You are going in the lift and suddenly the lift stopped. Yes, some people panic, some people remain calm and try to find out the solution. Okay, there's an alarm bell, there's some problem, there's something they can do. So you can show that. Bring personal examples here, no issues. Okay, individual, you talk about public servants, you talk about society, right? You're not getting the funds, you're having so many problems, still you're able to handle it because of your calm mind. Okay, that's how you can show it. Any doubt on this? Talk about emotional intelligence in this. Okay, don't be like just because we have to continue it. No, bring that emotional intelligence part, bring that part wherein you show it. Bring Bhagavad Gita also. Okay, now greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes. The greatest discovery of my generation, nothing important in this. Human beings can alter his life. You can change your life by just changing your attitudes. Yes?
Yes.
This is nothing but they're asking a question from the chapter of attitude, how attitude changes behavior. Attitude and behavior link. And behavior has a link on your future. Because whatever you behave, that will have some consequence. If you have a good habit, let's say we talk about something called as virtue. You can link it with this also. In virtues, what we do? We develop good habits, right? We develop good habits. Because of that virtues, then you achieve whatever you need, right? But to make this virtue, first mindset, that attitude part is very important, right? So that's what you try to do over here. So talk about this part. This, if you have positive mindset or positive attitude, there will be positive change. If there is negative, there will be negative part. Show that part, how attitude has impact on this behavior and the future, both dimensions. Clear? So for example, in present context, in personal life, you can show that. So if you have a growth mindset, nowadays we specifically talk about this, growth mindset. So there will be resilience, self-confidence, success, etc., etc. Likewise, you can again you can come up with the examples from different parts. Again, this public servants, you bring from society, you bring from international relations, wherever you can bring in those examples, put it over here. Okay, theoretically focus on this part, whatever we study in the static part, attitudes linkage with it. Okay, that has to be shown first. Then your example is just to give it substantiation, or just to conclude that part, that whatever you said. Clear? Now, next is, the strength of a society is not in its laws, but in the morality of its people. What do you understand by this? Strength of the society is not in its laws, but in the morality of its people.
Morality of people means good character. The society needs not.
Yes, they are trying to say that simply. So there is a topic that we study, laws and ethics and morality. So they are saying that laws are useless. It's the morality. Now here you call it morality or ethics, doesn't matter. Morality matters, laws do not matter. That's the statement. Okay, when anyway we study this topic as part of our static, when we discuss this, that how laws and this ethics and morality have a good relationship, but sometimes it can be very much contradictory. Government brings a law, let's say Dowry Prohibition Act. Yes, anything changed? You may say some result is there, but still dowry continues. Am I right? Untouchability is banned, still untouchability continues. So you can show this very clearly that laws not necessarily will change something. It's the society's mindset which is very important, the morality. Society should feel that this is something wrong. The moment they feel it is wrong, they'll not do it. The moment they consider it as right, let's say corruption, they might consider it as right, so they'll continue with it even if laws are present. That's what you're supposed to show over here, right? So show it, then you can add such good lines, yato dharmas tato jaya. Yes, dharma, yeah, the idea of dharma over here is about your duty or the right conduct that you can bring in over here. Okay? So this can be brought in. Many examples like TN sessions example, very good example, right? You can bring in. Easy? I don't think this is very difficult as such. This can be explored. Yes? Now moving ahead, next question, 4th A. For any kind of social re-engineering by successfully implementing welfare schemes, a civil servant must use reason and critical thinking in an ethical framework, justify this statement with suitable examples. Now I will say this is nothing but a repetition of one previous year question, wherein in one of the questions they had asked that civil servants must focus on core issues, not peripheral issues. Now when you will understand that you should focus on core issues only when what you do is you use your reasoning or critical thinking ability. See, simply like, let's say there are some welfare schemes, government brought a scheme that has to be implemented. Anyone can implement. Why you need such a good civil servant who is having the capability of critical thinking? Why you need that? That's the aspect they are expecting you to think of. In this answer, this thing has to be shown very clearly. You recruit someone having no ability to critical thinking. What he will do, where things will go wrong, right? He will implement in just letter, not in spirit. Wherever importance has to be given to, let's say, the value of justice and all, that has to be brought in over here. So that you have to show why this reason and critical thinking is very important. And they're trying to look at these welfare schemes, they use this term, social re-engineering. So they're talking about social reform. They are looking at civil servants as being so important that society can be changed by civil servants. This re-engineering is happening, so they are going to act as agents of social change or social transformation, right? So that's something they expect in the answer, that you talk about this part. Okay, so for example, you're implementing any particular scheme, in that your focus should be the weaker section or the weakest in all of that, right? That should be your focus. Then you will focus on last mile delivery. Sometimes maybe you are implementing a particular policy, 90%, 95% delivered, right? But last mile delivery, person to whom you are not reaching, if you reach to that, that is something you will give importance if you have critical thinking ability. Otherwise you will not give that, right? Then no corruption, you can bring more efficiency. So bring all those. See, just give examples of different schemes. Anyway, you know these schemes. But talk about these parts. Sometimes there can be a case of dilemma. Let's say that development versus environment, that part. So you might be in dilemma. So this critical thinking will give you a way out of it, right? So that's how you try to show this, that this critical thinking is important. Mention that part which was in PYQs, that this civil servant will focus on core issues and core things, and he will focus on the constitutional values or the philosophy of what we really want to achieve. So this will come from critical thinking. A normal person cannot do these things. Simple. Yes? So this you're expected to write here. Now, Mahavir. What are the major teachings of Mahavir? Explain their relevance in contemporary world. I don't think there is any question easier than this question in the entire paper. Yes? So do we study this Mahavir philosophy in ethics? We study this. So when I discuss about those philosophies part, we take Western philosophies, we take Indian philosophies. In Indian philosophy specifically, I focus on Jainism and Buddhism. because they have relevance more or less in our thought process, specifically Jainism, when we think about relativism and all. For that it is important. For the idea of happiness, for the idea of truth, this becomes very important. So we discuss in detail. It was like directly from the notes, you have to directly go and write down the answer, nothing different as such. So major teachings, whatever teachings are there, this ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, syadvat. Okay, firstly explain all these teachings in detail, okay, give example, and then show its relevance in present time. Right? For example, you're talking about ahimsa. So how ahimsa becomes relevant right now? So many wars are going on, so many problems are happening. In that, ahimsa becomes important. The idea of satya becomes important. Misinformation is taking place. Journalists are showing anything, whatever they want to. Satya comes into picture. Asteya, non-stealing. Hackers are there, right? Consumerism culture is there in which stealing is happening, or online digital theft that is happening. You can mention these examples. Very easy. Right? Do you think there's something special study you need to do for this? If you just know these principles, you can directly write down this answer. Right? Brahmacharya, this is also like right now people, because of this consumerism, people are like they need something or the other. So here this brahmacharya which brings some discipline, some moderation in human beings, some kind of self-restraint that can be brought in. So likewise you can mention. Okay, just divide the answer in two different parts. Show the teachings, show the relevance, or in one part also, or each relevance you can show it. That's it. Good marks can be brought in with this. Next, one who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. I repeat, one who is devoted to one's duty, right? So he attains highest perfection in life. He becomes the best version of himself, is what he is trying to say. Analyze this statement with reference to sense of responsibility, right, and personal fulfillment. Please understand these two are very different things. One is fulfillment. Okay, so you can connect this with ideas of Aristotle, who talks about something called as a state of eudaimonia, wherein you can reach. This is also something I discuss in the class directly, right? Eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is a state of happiness in real form. So he says that you have a lot of potential in you. When you actualize that potential, you really become that best version of yourself. That's the state in which you get eudaimonia, or you get the real happiness. Okay? And anyway, happiness is the thing that we really want. Here they are connecting this happiness or this highest perfection of yourself. You become the best with your duty part. A person who is duty led, for him duty is everything, right? So I can even connect this with the theories given by Vivekananda also. He also talks about these things, that service of Jiva is the worship of Shiva. So he talks about selfless duties. You will find many administrators, many bureaucrats who go for this selfless attitude, right? Even in the foundational values of civil servants, we talk about this part, that there should be dedication to public service, right? So this is something you are supposed to explore over here. Simply talk about this part, sense of responsibility that you have, and that's why you give so much importance to duty, right? And how you get this personal fulfillment through this. This is a different dimension you have to bring in. Okay, so connect these parts by doing the duties. So there is one thing, especially in terms of what we call achieving happiness or pleasure. So we talk about something called altruism, right? The altruism says simply that the real form of happiness comes in when you help others, right? Here, doing your responsibility, completing your duty or responsibility, that will give a sense of happiness which is of a different level. The happiness that you get, let's say by buying something, that's a different level of pleasure which you can differentiate with this form of happiness, especially when we talk about this eudaimonia. So when you talk about this personal fulfillment, okay, here you're reaching to the best version or the highest form of happiness which is permanent. Okay, pleasure is a short-term thing. Here you can get the highest form of happiness. You actualize yourself, you become the best version, right? So these two things are linked is what you have to show. Okay, So you can bring, let's say you start from Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, everything suits over here. Gandhiji also sets over here. Vivekananda sets over here. And many other examples from these bureaucrats, they can also be set over here. Okay? These can be written. Even Kant, Bhagavad Gita, this part you can write. Same thing. Okay? Now, to achieve holistic development goal, a civil servant acts as an enabler and active facilitator of growth rather than regulator. What specific measures will you suggest to achieve this goal? What do you understand by this? They are talking about specifically civil servants and their role. What's their role? So there is this principle called as maximum governance, minimum government. Yes, minimum government. Now here, what is the role of civil servants in true form? That is being talked about. Now this is something in news, I think, if I'm not wrong, since last 3-4 years, continuously this is being talked about. Civil service reforms are being talked about. Government is saying we want a new kind of bureaucracy, new kinds of civil servants who act as enablers. Okay, you just facilitate citizens will take care of other things. You facilitate them, whatever they need, enable them to become self-sufficient. Or let's say you don't give them fish, either teach them fishing or give them whatever equipments they need to do the fishing. That's how you become enabler or facilitator. You don't provide everything, right? So minimum government and maximum governance idea, or the idea of good governance that we discuss. In that we talk about this part, right? So don't be just regulator, be this enabler, right? So there is this idea of citizen-centric government, participate. This is what we talk about in good governance, right? All those 8 principles. So the same thing can be bring in over here. Same thing you can put it over here directly. Okay? Now, it is said that for an ethical work culture, there must be code of ethics in place in every organization. So, the question is on code of ethics. Now, this is the topic we anyway discuss, code of ethics, then code of conduct, difference between these two and importance of these two. When you say code of ethics, you focus on the values part, right? The focus is more on the values part. So they're saying for ethical work culture, there must be a code of ethics in place in every organization to ensure value-based and compliance-based work culture. What suitable measures would you adopt in your workplace? Work culture mentioned directly in the syllabus. Code of ethics also mentioned directly in the syllabus. Basic idea, and you can write this answer. Simply they are expecting you to answer what is this code of ethics, why do we need it, how it will be beneficial for this value-based culture, right? That values will be important in that workplace, right? And compliance-based. There are some rules, but as we said, only rules are nothing. Like in the earlier question, that laws can't decide anything, the morality decides everything. Here in this case, it's the code of ethics that will ensure the compliance, that you adhere to these rules. And if there are loopholes, still you adhere to the code of ethics, right? So that's the part you're supposed to write. Simply you can explore this and give some suitable measures that they are asking. What can we do in the code of ethics? What can we bring in? So you can say, I will define this code of ethics first. These values like impartiality, empathy, honesty, these become important in this work culture. We can train people with workshop, case studies. Now this happens also in corporates. They conduct some workshops. So give this example over here, right? Leadership, we can set an example by adhering, that the leader adheres to the code of ethics. They're supposed to come on time, leader comes first on the time. Everyone will automatically come, right? So these are the examples expected in this, right? Now, next. India is an emerging economic power of the world, and it has recently secured the status of 4th largest economy of the world as per IMF projection. However, the development of the country would remain incomplete without ensuring accountability in this regard to stop leakages and gaining the status of 3rd largest economy of the world in near future. Now it seems like they have directly taken question from newspaper, right? We are becoming this economic power, IMF projection is there. Development would remain incomplete without ensuring accountability in this regard to stop leakages. Okay, you talk about corruption part and gaining the status of the third largest economy of the world in near future, right? So you have to talk about they have explained all these things. These are useless. They have just talked about that we are reaching to this high thing. Core thing is this: if you don't have accountability, then everything is useless, is what they are trying to say. Your focus should also be on that part. Okay, I would start this answer specifically with Rousseau's idea of social contract. Rousseau or Locke or Hobbes, anyone we can bring in, that there is a social contract between citizens and the state. That contract is very important, and for that this accountability principle becomes important. So problems, first showcase those problems, that there is no accountability, there is leakage, like there is corruption, there is leakage, fiscal leakage, there is weak implementation of the schemes, all these things mention over there. Then after that bring in this accountability, what you can do and all. So why accountability is needed, I would say further add how you can ensure this accountability, what measures can be taken. They have not asked it, you can mention that part, right? You can mention all those measures. That's like there's nothing new knowledge you need to answer this part. This is basic GS answer wherein you mention all these things. Okay, now next is our case studies part, section B. So let's read this. Vijay was deputy commissioner of remote district of hilly northern state of country last 2 years. In the month of August, heavy rains lashed the complete state, followed by cloudburst in the upper reaches of the state district. It seems like in the news, whatever we studied, yes. So these things keep on happening. It seems directly they have used it. They have not named it, but they have given the same case study. Now, followed by cloudburst. The damage was very heavy in complete state, especially affected district. The complete road network and telecom were disrupted and the buildings were damaged. Okay, people's houses have been destroyed. Okay, more than 200 people have been killed. 5,000 were badly injured. Civil administration under Vijay got activated, started conducting rescue and relief operations. Temporary shelter camps and hospitals were established to provide shelter and medical facilities to the homeless and injured people. Helicopter services were pressed, evacuating sick and old people. Vijay got a message from his hometown, Kerala. Now he is from Kerala, that his mother was seriously sick. See, entire story is something we anyway know from the news, right? Here comes your ethical dilemma, which starts from this. While reading, you can understand that his mother was seriously sick, and after 2 days he gets the message that his mother has expired. Vijay has no close relative except one elder sister who was US citizen and staying there for last several years. So no close relatives, right? In the meantime, the situation is affected in the affected district deteriorated further due to resumption of heavy rains after a gap of 5 days. So again they are making the situation extreme. At the same time, continuous messages were coming on his mobile phone from his hometown to reach at the earliest for performing last rites of mother. So this is where it seems the situation has become very tense for this person. We can identify who all stakeholders are there. That's not a big deal for you. The problem is what all options are available to him. That's the main question, right? Now think about, first thing, what are the issues involved in this? Rather than thinking about the options, think about the problems he faces. That's anyway part of the question, right? So first thing, personal part and the duty part. He has emotional attachment, emotional part comes into picture. Family is also very important. Familial responsibility is also very important. And versus the dilemma comes into picture because of the duty and the responsibility towards the state as a civil servant, right? So this is the main part: emotional commitment, professional responsibility, duty and the ethics part, right? Short-term family obligation, long-term administrative accountability. If he leaves the place immediately, he's not taking care of the responsibility, there will be lot of consequences at that particular place. So show all that, Okay, look at this part first. Automatically you will understand what action to be taken. This is not something like rocket science you need to think about. What options he has? Number one, he can go right now. That is one option. Talk about it. What will happen in this case? If he leaves immediately, he's running away from his responsibility towards the state. That will have consequences. Maybe thousands of people will die. So talk about all these bad things that will happen. Good thing, okay, he's coming to his familial responsibility. Show all these things. Then you can stay back fully over there at the same location. Don't go. In that case, family might not be happy, right? Or you can request for 2-3 days of leave. Now that's a good option. Or take some suggestion. If you're very much confused, take some suggestion from your superiors, right? So likewise you come up with options. Now which option will he choose? Common sense. What I will do, just use your basic common sense. First I'll seek some advice from someone, right? What I should do in this particular case. Also use my mind that I can take some leaves, but I'll first take some necessary measures because the situation is very emergency situation. So I'll take some necessary measures, and if I get some other officer allocated to that position with the approval, if I can get the 2-3 days of leave, if it is really manageable, then I'll leave, right? That's how you show that you're a responsible person, right? So that's how you're supposed to manage it and finally come to your conclusion, what action you will take. Show it very clearly. Okay, in that talk about the values which come into picture over here. Okay, now, next. In line with the directive principles of state policy enshrined in the Indian Constitution, government has a constitutional obligation to ensure basic needs. Food, clothes and shelter, roti, kapda, makan. Okay, so overall they are trying to say that DPSP articles are there. Okay. Now, for the underprivileged, the district administration proposed clearing a portion of forest land to develop housing for the homeless and economically weaker sections. Now, this is something as per DPSP that is happening, they are saying. The proposed land, however, is an ecologically sensitive zone, densely populated with the age-old trees, medicinal plants, and vital biodiversity. Besides, these forests help to regulate this. Okay, same continued. So they are saying this area is ecologically sensitive. Again, development versus this environment part coming into picture. Now, the administration argues in favor of said proposal by highlighting that this is where this very initiative addresses fundamental human rights as a critical welfare priority, fulfills government's duty to uplift and empower poor, which is also very important. Further, these forest areas have become unsafe due to wild animal threats and recurring human-wildlife conflicts. And lastly, clearing these forest zones may help to curb anti-social elements, allegedly using these areas as hideouts, thereby enhancing law and order. Okay, so many people are coming in. Wildlife is coming into picture, that is one stakeholder. These people, they are also stakeholders. So all these are there. But the core problem you need to address over here first, that DPSP versus environment. Or in the DPSP also there is something called we should protect environment, but we should give importance to the human life. So human life versus environment is coming into picture. So that's the core part they are touching in, right? So they are asking, can deforestation be ethically justified in the pursuit of social welfare? Now you can't justify it completely that you will go for deforestation completely. You can't justify it, right? But you can't completely leave away this part. This is also responsibility. So two responsibilities at the same moment, right? Then socio-economic, administrative and ethical challenges in balancing this human development and environmental conservation. We discussed this part, environment versus this development. Same content you are writing over here, just you are dividing in these three aspects, nothing different, right? We already discussed this part already over there, right? Same will be answered. And what substantial alternatives or policy interventions can be proposed to ensure both environmental integrity and human dignity are protected. So this is where actually you need to use your brain, wherein come up with some innovation in the answer, right? It's again the GS type of answer, nothing different as such, right? So here we talked about this part, that it cannot be justified so completely. You bring in these theories, deontological, Gandhian theory, etc. and divide this answer, as I said, socio-economic, administrative, ethical. Bring all these. What kind of challenges? Urbanization, people don't have homes and all, so you need to build homes. Simply, there is poverty, there is so much inequality. Show all these problems, that these problems are there. right? So that's how you show. No issues in this. The part is here you have to give solution again, which says that we have to balance these two things. Both things are needed, right? You have to just balance it. You can't justify deforestation, okay? But if some kind of action is needed to ensure all this, you have to bring some balance, that your rights we will try to protect, and that environment we will also try to protect that. Somewhere we will try to minimize the damage. The idea in the mind should be minimize the damage as much as possible. That is something you have to show. Now come up with whatever measures you can come up with. Let's say vertical housing we will create so that we will not take more space, right? So such things, just basic common sense GS answer over here. Okay. Next, case study number 9. Subhash is Secretary PWD in the state government. He is a senior officer known for his competence, integrity, dedication to work. He enjoys the trust and confidence of Minister in charge of PWD and program implementation. As a part of his job profile, he is responsible for policy formulation, executive of project relating to infrastructure initiative. He oversees technical and administrative aspects. Okay. Now, Subhash minister is an important minister in the state. Significant growth in urban infrastructure development and road network has been registered during his tenure. Okay, so minister is also important, and he is very keen for launching of ambitious road construction project. Subhash is in regular touch with the minister and working various modalities for road construction. Regular meetings, interactions, presentations are made by him to the minister before a formal public announcement of the project. Subhash's only son Vikas is in real estate business. Now see, the moment I see this, I will think about this concept called as conflict of interest. Okay. While reading, I would suggest make such things on the paper directly, because anyway this will be important while writing the answer. Okay. His son from his own sources is aware that mega road project is on anvil and announcement in this regard is expected. So it seems he is interested, that he needs some information. He is very keen to know from his father the exact location of the upcoming project. So conflict of interest idea is here. Confidentiality part is also there. Am I right? Your own ethical conduct will be there, that you are bringing personal interest and your professional conduct, the probity part, all these. So can you think of all these things which are there in syllabus directly, right? Now he knows that there would be quantum jump in the prices of land in the vicinity. Buying land at this stage is cheaper. Okay, nothing new. He feels pressurized. Okay. Now this person is feeling pressurized because of his son. Okay. Another significant aspect of the matter pertain to undue interest in the above project by the Minister of PWD. His nephew was also having big infrastructure project company. Now just like his son is putting pressure, now minister will also put the pressure. Again, issue is the same. Conflict of interest, responsibility, etc., etc. So minister encouraged him to act fast in the matter. So minister introduced him, indicated to him, take care of his nephew's business interest. So minister is saying his nephew. So clear. So discuss ethical issues, options available and most appropriate. Same thing that they keep on asking again and again. Okay. Now simply you will talk about the same things as I said. Conflict of interest, confidentiality, your own integrity, this nepotism coming into picture. If you do this act, it's a nepotism, corruption, all these things. Professional responsibility, how you manage family pressure and public duty, how you separate them also, right? And misuse of public office, that trust part. Again, I can say that this trust part between citizens and the state, right? Same thing has to be talked about. Okay, thinking about this problem is not a big deal. What can you do? There are different options. Listen to minister, number one, or accept or give the information to the son, right? Talk about the merits and demerits in everything. What good will happen and what bad will happen. Then we'll not give information to anyone, we'll not listen to anyone, we'll do what the duty says, right? Refuse both son and minister very firmly. or go for some procedural safeguards that okay, I'll do this thing, that I'll ensure that my conflict of interest will not be there. So in conflict of interest we discuss that part. You can recuse from the case, you can get out of that case and all those things. You can do all that. Okay, so bring in all those principles like I'll ensure fairness in the process when the bidding is happening or something is happening about that process. I'll not give information to anyone. Everything will be done in public in front of everyone. Simple things, right? So you will come up with solution in the form of third and fourth mixture. It's not like only one action you are taking. It's a mixture of these actions that you can say that will be my action, right? Easy, very easy. Now next, Rajesh is a Group A officer with 9 years of service, posted in administrative officer in oil public sector undertaking. He is responsible for managing, coordinating various administrative tasks, also manages office supplies. Sufficient senior and okay, Rajesh is now sufficient senior and is expecting his next promotion is Jack. Okay, doesn't matter to us. He is known for the promotion ACR and by the DPC Department for Promotion Committee, and officer lacking requisite grading of ACRs. Okay, consequences of losing promotion may entail financial and reputational loss and setback for career progression. Now here comes the point. He needs promotion. Promotion is important for him. He manages office supplies etc. and he is already at a senior position expecting the promotion. Understand one thing. What is the mindset of this person? That he's expecting the promotion. He's at that stage. Career progression matters to everyone, right? He knows that promotion is based on the examination of ACR or performance appraisal of last 5 years by this DPC. Okay? And an officer lacking this part will not be found fit for any promotion. So for him, this document, this ACR, this examination matters a lot now. ACR is nothing, just like what is your performance. Any officer's performance will be mentioned over there. Good, bad, whatever, everything will be there in this. Now, consequence of losing promotion may entail financial and reputational loss. Okay. He also puts his best effort in official discharge of his duty, yet he is unsure of the assessment by superior officer. He is now putting extra effort so that he gets thumping report at the end of financial year. As administrative officer, Rajesh is regularly interacting with his immediate boss, who is his reporting officer, for writing his ACR. So your boss is writing this ACR. Now you want that he should write well. One day he calls Rajesh and wants him to buy computer related stationery on priority from a particular vendor. Rajesh instructs his office officer to initiate action for procuring these items. During the day, the dealing assistant brings an estimate of rupees 35 lakh covering all stationery items from the same vendor. It is noticed that as per delegated financial powers as provided in GFR as applicable in that organization, expenditure for official items exceeding this much amounts needs next higher authority sanction. So that means this boss has said, take this action, buy this something, 35 lakh rupees. Rules say if you are buying this much, you need to take permission of higher authority, right? Now Rajesh knows that immediate superior would expect all these purchases should be done at his level and may not appreciate such lack of initiative on his part. Now the senior expect you do it at your level. That means you are going against the law, against the rules. If you don't do, the superior might not write good about you in the ACR. You are concerned about your career progression. So your personal career progression versus this overall thing wherein you break the law, right? And the Weberian bureaucracy, they have this one rule that they have to follow the rules no matter what, right? So that's the conflict over here. So during discussions with his officer, he learns that common practice of splitting of expenditure where large order is divided into series of smaller ones followed to avoid obtaining sanction from higher authority, and this practice is against the rules and may come to adverse notice of audit. So it's like later on, if there is an audit, they will come to know that there was some problem over here. They have done some problem. So what can Rajesh do in this particular case? What are options available to him? Now ultimately you should be very clear about, see, this case study is nothing but your own understanding of the situation. What will you do? Simply, no matter what, you are not compromising with integrity, right? Integrity number 1, showcase those principles in the answer. Integrity will not be compromised, law will not be broken, you will not compromise with the rules no matter what. Superior, if needed, you will compromise your career. That sacrifice has to come in the paper. But to ensure that part also, you will try to showcase your performance rightly. Okay, you may ask for written orders also. All these things are possible in this particular case, right? So show that he has options. He can follow superior's advice, or he can seek approval from the higher authority, that too in written form. You can take some advice also, you can consult others also. Yes, all these options are there. And refuse to comply with rule violation. This has to be done no matter what. But you will show that I'll take action, I'll take all these actions. It's not like I'll take just one action, but this I'll 100% take, show that. Clear? You can talk about all these ethical issues which are very similar to the earlier case. I don't think there's much difference in this. Conflict of interest, integrity, career interest, rule of law versus culture of organization, then leadership quality part, all this will come into picture. Okay? That's it in this particular case. Now, next case. Okay, you can read this. Okay, so initial story is nothing. You are an officer and this implementation of Manrega is happening. Now you find out something. The main thing is written from here. You have been given this responsibility to monitor this Manrega work. And you find out that someone who worked earlier, the predecessor, he has mismanaged the program. Right? Money is not disbursed to the actual job seekers. There is some problem with this list, muster rolls, mismatch between work done and payment. So overall, there is complete corruption and mismanagement. That is visible over here. The mismanagement is visible, but you don't know whether there was corruption or what exactly happened. You have to investigate first, scientific mindset, right? So what you will do, you will first go for some inquiry, find out. The point is what they were asking, what is your reaction in this particular situation? What action will you take to initiate to solve the various issues listed? The point is there are so many problems which are already discussed over here. All these issues are already there. Same you are using in your answer. Core problem is the earlier officer did this mistake, or maybe he has done it deliberately. Are you going to take this new action? Some officers, what they do is they'll just look at what can be done right now. They'll not be like taking any extra effort to take action against that officer. Here, are you going to do that or not? That is something being checked. Right? This is the real integrity part. One can be honest officer, he'll not take action. Integrity, a person with integrity, he'll certainly go ahead with this. Show that part over here that I'll take that action. Okay, so fact finding and audit, first you will check, you will go for investigation, check everything. Then you will take this corrective measures, whatever needed. Now corrective measures will be first in terms of this policy, Manrega, which has to be implemented in the right manner. You take all that for citizens. Second corrective measure is against that officer, whoever he has done. Both sides you have to bring in over here, right? So you show this thing that I'll take these actions. Accountability will be ensured. Restoration of transparency and trust will be brought in. And we will monitor rightly, capacity building will be done, right? This is basic thing that we can understand from this. This is the part you can focus more on in the answer, right? Be very, like in a detailed manner, write down this corrective measure part for both sides. Now some people will be focusing on just one part. Don't do that. Focus on citizens as well as parallelly focus on taking this action, because in future that person should not take that action, right? That's how you show your integrity over here. Clear? Now last, or we'll discuss from this part. Yes. So Ashok is a divisional commissioner, border districts of Northeast. A few years back, military has taken over the neighboring country after taken over the neighboring country after overthrowing the elected civil government. Civil war situation is prevailing in the country since last 2 years. Internal situation further deteriorated due to rebel groups taking over control of certain populated areas near own border. Due to intense fight between military and rebel groups, civilian casualties increased. Meantime, one night Ashok got information from local police guarding the border checkpost that there are about 200 to 250 people, mainly women and children. They're trying to cross over to our side of the border. So some people are crossing the border right now, right? Now there are also about 10 soldiers with their weapons in military uniform, part of this group, who want to cross over. So you see, while dealing with this, highlight this part. Women and children, you have to deal with them differently. And there are soldiers in uniform, you have to deal with them differently. Okay, remember this part while writing the answer for this. Okay, women and children are also crying and begging for help. A few of them are injured and bleeding, profusely need immediate medical care. Ashok tried to contact Home Secretary of the state but failed to do so due to poor connectivity, mainly due to the inclement weather. So again, what options he has, what are the ethical issues he will be facing in this particular case. Now see, the point is, what kind of values you are going to come in, you are going to show over here in this particular case. Firstly, understand, if the situation in your neighboring part is not good and some people are coming and asking for help, women and children to be more specific, right, they're begging. So that principle of compassion which comes into picture, which you have to show over here, being empathetic, being compassionate, you're supposed to help them, right? That is even the principle at the international level, that if there is a refugee, you're supposed to help them. Although legally you might not be supposed to do that, but still you have to do this as a part of ethics or value system, right? So this you will show over here, compassion, empathy, humanitarianism, right? But in case of those soldiers, see, even these soldiers also need help, but they are having weapons also. What you will do, first of all, you will ensure that you separate these people, you ask them to keep your weapons away, then you give them entry, but you will keep them separately as compared to these people, right? So first, your importance you will give is to women and children, right? This priority should be visible in your answer also, that I am giving importance to them first, right? This shows your qualities, right? So for example, if I get here, what options are? You can deny the entry, you will not do that simply. Now maybe because you have security concerns also, talk about this measure, why you can think about it, denying them entry, because they are not citizens, they are entering in illegally. Am I right? Talk about that part. Allow women and children only, but deny soldiers, that is one option. Or you can allow the soldiers but disarm these soldiers first, right? That is also possible. Then provide some temporary humanitarian aid at the border itself. That means you are not letting them enter in the country, because again that's a challenge, because you are compromising with your security part, right? Let government take some action further, or let's say let them come up with some solution for this particular problem, how they can send them back or what can be done. But till that time, you're trying to ensure they get at least the basic things, this food, clothes, whatever basic needs are there, you're trying to ensure that. This is something you're supposed to show over here. Okay, dilemmas, security versus humanitarian aid, basic thing. Humanity versus the law, or justice versus mercy. Now this is something I specifically focus in the lectures, that there is mercy or care. What is more important at the end? Is it justice that is more important or mercy? Mercy is a principle which is way superior than justice in the day-to-day affairs. Justice is certainly important. We give very much importance to justice. But justice means you might think about eye for an eye, right? In the mercy, or when you become compassionate, that's another level we say. And this is a major ideal. So show this over here in this particular answer. Okay, you can bring in those laws which you are anyway reading in GS paper 2, Foreigners Act, Refugee Status of India, etc., etc. Those can be used, but focus should be on these lines. Okay, so that's how you mention it finally, and you talk about all those measures you will be taking. Okay, so that's all. Easy paper. So mostly what I observe is most of the questions directly come from PYQs or the syllabus keywords and their direct implementation which is visible in the current affairs. So they have merged all these things to form this paper. Okay, so that's it. We'll meet next time with new session. Okay, thank you.